Everyone ignored the homeless boy sitting on the cracked sidewalk of Maplewood Avenue. He was 12 years old, with tangled brown hair falling over his forehead, torn sneakers held together by a single fraying lace, and a faded green jacket 2 sizes too big draped over his small shoulders. A battered cardboard sign leaned against the wall beside him that read simply, "Hungry. Please help." People walked past him the way they walked past lampposts, without seeing, without slowing, without caring. Businessmen in sharp suits scrolled through their phones. Mothers steered strollers to the other side of the path. A group of teenagers laughed, loudly as they stepped around him like he was a crack in the pavement. His name was Daniel, and he had been invisible to this world for longer than any child should ever be. He had lost his mother to illness 8 months ago, and with no father and no relatives willing to take him in, the streets had become his home, cold, indifferent, and unforgiving. But Daniel carried one thing that the streets had never been able to take from him. Tucked behind the dumpster at the end of the alley where he slept each night was a battered acoustic guitar. It had belonged to his mother. The body was scratched, one tuning peg was replaced with a twisted piece of wire, and the strap was held together with electrical tape. But to Daniel, it was the most precious thing in the world. His mother had taught him to play when he was 6, sitting on their apartment floor with her warm hands guiding his small fingers across the strings. She used to say, "Daniel, music is the language the heart speaks when words are not enough." That afternoon, after hours of being unseen and unfed, something shifted inside him. Maybe it was grief. Maybe it was hunger sharpening into desperation. Maybe it was simply that he missed his mother so deeply that he needed to feel close to her, in the only way he still could. He walked back to the alley, pulled out the guitar, slung it carefully over his shoulder, and returned to the sidewalk. He sat down on the cold concrete, closed his eyes for a moment, took a breath, and began to play. The first few notes drifted out quietly, soft, tentative, like a bird testing its wings after a long winter. But within seconds, something remarkable happened. The music that poured from that old, battered guitar was unlike anything the busy street had ever heard. Daniel played with the kind of feeling that cannot be taught in any school or learned from any book. It came from somewhere deeper, from love, from loss, from 8 months of sleeping under open skies and carrying a broken heart inside a child's chest. His fingers moved across the strings with extraordinary grace, weaving a melody so tender and so achingly beautiful that it seemed to stop time itself. A woman walking past slowed her steps, then stopped entirely. She stood still, her coffee cup frozen. Halfway to her lips, her eyes filling with tears she couldn't explain. A construction worker on his lunch break turned around. An elderly man lowered himself onto a nearby bench, leaned forward, and listened with his eyes closed and his hands clasped together. One by one, people stopped. The sidewalk that had been a river of indifference became a quiet gathering of human beings suddenly, unexpectedly moved. A little girl tugged her father's hand and whispered, "Daddy, is that an angel?" Daniel played on, unaware of the crowd forming around him, lost completely in the music and in the memory of his mother's face. When he finally reached the last note and let it fade into the afternoon air, there was a long, breathless silence, and then the street erupted. Applause rang out like thunder. People were crying openly. Others were already reaching into their wallets, not because someone had asked them to, but because something inside them had cracked open and they felt compelled to give. A woman named Margaret, who ran a music academy 3 blocks away, pushed gently through the crowd and knelt down in front of Daniel. She looked at him, really looked at him, and said quietly, "Where did you learn to play like that?" Daniel looked down at the guitar and smiled softly. "My mom taught me," he said. Margaret placed her hand over her heart. She learned his story in the next few minutes, standing right there on that sidewalk. By the end of the day, she had arranged a room for him above the academy, enrolled him in school, and offered him a place to belong. The street that had ignored him for months had finally heard him, not because he had spoken louder, but because he had spoken in the only language that breaks. Through every wall, the human heart builds around itself. Daniel never stopped playing, and he never forgot what his mother had told him. Music is the language the heart speaks when words are not enough. If this story moved your heart, please take a moment to like, share, And subscribe to Kindness Corner Stories, where every story is a reminder that compassion, courage, and kindness can change a life forever. Your support helps these stories reach more hearts around the world.